How's everybody doing? I actually have a couple of new amps, as you might be able to see here. The Boss Katana is no longer here at all. It used to be my living room amp. Now I have a couple of new living room amps. Perfect ones for living in an apartment. You know, the neighbors don't get bothered at all. But actually, these are more so just to have a little bit of tonal variety, because previously I had either just my triple rectifier or the Katana. So it was like a very extreme amp or a very tiny solid state amp. But I wanted to have some more variety, some more options, and some amps that I could potentially use to take out when I'm playing with other people. So first we have the new EVH 5150 Iconic, which is pretty cool. This is not going to be a review of them. I'm just basically getting them set up. So this amp is set up. Let's see what we got. Okay, so obviously I've got these very low because I'm in my apartment. I don't want to get evicted. So that is the clean sound. I think you've got a boost on the clean sound. So that works. And then there's a channel switch, which I've got a foot switch down here that you can't see. That goes to channel 2, which is the high gain channel, obviously. So as you can probably tell, I mean, compared to speaking volume, you can clearly hear me still talking, and this amp is getting some raging gain tones that sounds good, actually, all the way down to like a whisper low volume. So in that sense, it definitely can replace the Boss Katana, so that's a really good thing. I am personally kind of a hater about the 5153s, the typical ones that we've been seeing for the last few years. I've always thought that since those amps came out, they have sort of like this ethereal, happy sounding fluffiness to the gain, whereas the 5150 Iconic, which has been out for a few months now, when I started hearing demos and comparisons, I realized that this amp is a little bit more aggressive sounding than that, which I really liked. And it's a little bit simpler looking, which is cool, and it's pretty affordable. I think they're supposed to be about $1,000. I got $120 off of this one from Guitar Center because it had like a pen mark on it, which is not a big deal. It's an 80-watt head, although you have the option to turn it down to a quarter power, which would be 20 watts, which is what I'm on now, which is how it's able to tame up so much. It has a built-in noise gate, although I don't think that really matters at such a low volume. I have like no boost level on channel 2, so let me turn that up to 2 out of 10 and then see what it does. Let's see what it does at 5. Okay, so that really opens up. Obviously this is not a review of these amps. I literally just got them, so this is more of a function check. They're both cool, and they should both be pretty different in sound. 5150 Iconic obviously is a modern take on an Iconic design, and the second amp that I have is a Mesa single rectifier that I just got, which is the 50-watt version of the rectifier family, which I don't think they've made for a while, so this one's going to be fairly old. So you got one that's brand new, modern, one that's very old, both jammable, both with their own very distinct but great tones. All right, so going back to the clean channel just for a moment. So now I am turning off the 5150 because obviously I only have one speaker cabinet. Here's a tip. If I ever am going to unplug an amp from the speaker, even though it's off, I like to unplug it from the wall so that I definitely have no chance to try to turn the amp on when it doesn't have a load on it. So I had to unplug that. Now I've got the power cable for the Mesa. I'm going to move the speaker cable, which this is an 8 ohm cabinet. I'm going to move that cable here to the 8 ohm in the Mesa. Oddly enough, because this, by the way, here's the little foot switch for the EVH. It just has a channel and boost switch. Oddly enough, for the Mesa, the foot switch is still included, although I'm about to find out if it works because this is a much older used amp. You're kind of hit or miss with the foot switch, but you've got a rhythm and solo button on it. So let me figure out where I need to plug that in. Turns out it just plugs into the front. Then take the input from here to this amp. Then I can plug in the power cable. Plug my guitar back in. So here's going to be the moment of truth, because although the new 5150 Iconic is exciting, to actually find a Mesa single rectifier that's in good shape, that's got a foot switch and everything, you know, I'm much more of a Mesa fan, so this amp is a lot more exciting to me. It's also a lot older, so let me see what I need to do not to blow the roof off. Let's see. So it looks like you've got, each channel has its own row of controls. There's 2 channels on this. You've got a master for each channel. So it tells you in between the knobs what they are. So master, presence, bass, mid, treble, gain. Pretty simple. Solo is maybe a separate output. And then there's an output, which is going to be your volume. So let's turn that a little low. The masters are low, so this shouldn't come on super loud. And also it has these switches to go from clean to pushed, and then vintage to modern for to push the gain higher on each channel. So let's see what we got. Currently we're on the rhythm channel. So maybe solo is boost. Let's see. presence is pretty high on both. I'm just going to set the EQs all to the middle because I don't know how this is going to sound. All right. The gain is pretty low. This is on the clean channel. I wonder if I can get the output a little low. I don't know what output is for. So master kind of just comes in there. It's a little loud for apartment level. That's typical with Mesas, that you kind of just move it just a fraction of a hair and it goes from off to pretty loud, and then you move another fraction of a hair and then it becomes deafening, and then from that point it'll just blast the windows out of the building. So this is pretty tame. Also, we're dealing with just an unattenuated 50 watt amp versus the 5150, which although it's 80 watts, you could attenuate it down to a quarter power, so that's only 20 versus 50. But that does sound pretty good to me. Let's see if we switch to the lead channel. So the left side of the pedal, if it's green, you're on rhythm, which is the clean channel. If you hit the pedal again, it switches to the lead channel. Let's see what we have here. I can already hear it a little bit, even when it's completely off. So maybe that pot is a little bit more sensitive. So the solo channel is perhaps the lead channel. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, why it's called two different things. Let's see. Oh yeah, it does sort of burst into life there. Does that woofy Mesa thing that I like, which is a bit much again for being in an apartment. So it's just very lovable. Let me see. I'm doing a little bit more function checking on this one because it is an old used amp versus the 5150. So if I turn the presence off, it's very dull. That's tight, okay? Bass, the bass off is more apartment friendly. Turn it back up a little. Oh yeah, it gets a lot of bass in like any Mesa would do. Turn the mids up a little bit. Treble up a little bit. Yep. That is that Mesa Rectifier sound that I know and love. So I'm very happy, obviously, that both these amps work, especially the single rectifier. It seems like everything works on it. That was actually even in vintage gain. Holy crap. All right, modern is actually a bit much for being in an apartment, so I'm going to say that that was a satisfactory amp test, and it's probably the first time I've ever even tried a clean channel on a rectifier. And before this video gets too long, which it already is over 30 minutes, I'm gonna have to cut this way down. There you go. There's a couple of new amps that I got. Out with the old and with the new. Replaced the Boss Katana because I fell out of love with it, really, as I never really loved it because it's solid state, but there's apparently better living room practice amps that you can get if you just turn them way down. Hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments what amps that you guys are using, whether you like them, whether you don't like them, what purposes you're using them for, because I'm finding that I'm totally set with the guitars that I'm using, but I needed a couple more options for amps, and now I'm probably set with that as well. But it's always good to hear, you know, what the use case would be for any amp, really. So leave a comment with your thoughts below. If you like this video, don't forget to share it and subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you guys next time.